and we were able to do a six-figure launch by using that
Heck yeah,
same
dude.
bot.
So good.
And I messaged you on Instagram. I said, "Hey, dude, just did my six-figure launch, doing the same thing. Thank you for your for your help and your insights at that event." So, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I've got a friend that I made back in 2018 with me today, Pat Flynn. And Pat, first of all, thanks for coming on with me. I know you're a super busy guy, but thanks for
No,
giving me some time, buddy.
this is great. We're gonna nerd out on a bunch of fun stuff, so I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, we are. So for those of you that don't know Pat, he owns Parts Passive Smart Passive Income, as well as a whole bunch of other cool stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into some of. But more so, he's been in the online marketing, the affiliate space, the passive income space, the podcast space for well over a decade. How long have you been doing this, Pat?
Since '08, so 15 years and
Yeah.
counting now, which is, makes me a kind of an OG in the space, if you will. But I love trying new things and experimenting, and we'll get into that today. I don't just stick with one thing. I try a bunch of different things, see what works, and then just kind of report back for everybody. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, I love it. You've got a couple of YouTube channels that you're crushing it on. Maybe just a quick little overview of you, your channels, what you do, and then we can jump into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, back in '08, got laid off from my architecture job. Best thing to ever happen because it allowed me to explore these other things. I have a website that helps architects pass a particular exam. That was my very first online business before I started teaching it. And that is still alive today, 15 years later, generating a few $1,000s a month now. It was at one point in '09 and 2010, making $30,000 to $35,000. But I'm more removed from that industry now. So I've been focusing on now helping others start things. And smartpassiveincome.com is the blog, podcast, and website that I share a lot of these things. I like to experiment, like I said, and this kind of share the findings. And I got pretty big in that space by sharing my income reports. So I would actually report publicly and share people how much money I was making, how much money I was spending, what was all happening behind the scenes, so that others can kind of learn from my mistakes and kind of get inspired at the same time. And we were getting into months of six-figure income with the combination of not just the architecture website, but affiliate marketing with niche sites that I was creating. I started an iPhone app company back in 2010 as well. Early days, of course, and that's been sold and finished. And my niche sites several of them have kind of left Google now, as far as like just they don't even show up anymore. But others I've sold, and those brands have taken off on their own, which is great. I invented a physical product, a tripod with my videographer, and that's done really well. We launched on Kickstarter in 2019 and made about $500,000 in 60 days with that, which was cool. And it's still running today and pretty much automated through Amazon and our website at switchpod.co. My YouTube channel, Pat Flynn, is more of a business one where I teach the business things that I learn and show and share a lot of new tools that I find with people. But the big channel that I started recently in 2020 is about Pokemon. So I've gone into the Pokemon collecting space, and that channel is quickly approaching 1 million subscribers now, almost just 3 years into it. And it's generating tens of $1,000s a month through ads, but also sponsorships. I'm an affiliate, just like I do in the business world. I'm an affiliate for certain products in this space now, and I'm the top affiliate for a lot of products there. I'm also an advisor to companies in that space now. Pokemon and I have a relationship together directly. They flew me out to Japan last year to check out Pokemon Worlds, which was really cool. And we're building a community there. I actually held a live event in Anaheim in June of 2023 that attracted 2,500 paying attendees, as well as sponsors like eBay and Ultra Pro, and building a community around there. I have books. I speak around the world, and just it's all about serving the audience. And product to market fit is kind of my thing. And then once you find that product that fits that market, let's bring the people in that market together in a community. And I wrote a book in 2019 that is being spread around the entrepreneurial space and has been for a while, called Superfans. Because when you build superfans in your audience and you support the people who are already in your brand, that's going to attract new people in. There's many ways to bring people into your brand, ads and stuff that obviously you're an expert in. But I love the referral marketing engine that can be created. And when you build superfans and you create those experiences that your audience has, they go out and share and bring new people in, and they come in warm. They're not coming in cold. They're coming in warm because of a referral. And so you can grow your marketing engine from within your business, which I think is really cool. So yeah, that's kind of a quick rundown, but I have 2 kids and live in San Diego and just want to spend all my time with them as they grow up. And, I only have a few summers left with each of them. So want to make the most of it.
So just a quick little story. So in 2018, Pat was one of the keynote. There was him. I don't think John Lee Dumas was a speaker. I think he was just, there to support Mark, but you were like a real big speaker at this event. And from the pool, if you remember, from the pool, I heard Pat Flynn's story, and I heard how, how he started his course, his architecture exam passing course and all that kind of stuff. And literally within the year, I replicated your launch with a cohort of people that were specializing in the real estate financial modeling space. And we were able to do a 6-figure launch by using that same.
Dude. So good.
And I messaged you on Instagram. I said, hey, dude, just did my 6-figure launch, doing the same thing. Thank you for your, for your help and your insights at that event. So just a little bit of backdrop on color to your success. Obviously, you help other people. You helped me. And you help a lot of people on your channel just by giving really actionable tips. Listen, I know we don't have 4 hours to geek out and talk today, and people probably don't want to sit here. I mean, maybe they would listen to us for 4 hours.
Maybe, I don't know.
But you've got so much value to add. And in terms of my audience, when they look at somebody like you that is making money from so many different places, and there maybe some of them are trying to do that. Maybe some of them have achieved that to some level, but they really want to get to the level to where it's like, man, I got stuff coming in from a lot of different places, which gives me comfort, gives me stability. So I wonder if we might kind of gear towards that conversation in terms of, if you're getting started, you want to go down the path of making money online, not to be pointed and say, where do you start? But where would you start if you were starting today?
Yeah, I mean, my brand is Smart Passive Income, but the beginning parts of getting that and achieving it is very active, right? And there is really no such thing as 100% passive income unless you're Bobby Bonilla from the Mets or something. So the way that I would recommend a person to literally start from scratch is what I like to call the 1-1-1. So find one person in a niche, find the one problem that they have, and then get them one result. And when you narrow it down that way, it feels a lot easier. You don't need a website or nothing. Find a person in a community that you know needs help, and then get them a result. And so many things happen when you go through that exercise. One, the finding part is an exercise to go, where do these people exist? Let's make a map of where this target audience likes to hang out, or where they live. What events do they go to? Whatever it might be, you might already be in one of those spaces, which is great. And then finding the person, it's an exercise to go and locate and do research and have conversations to find a person who might have a problem that you want to solve, and not just learning what those problems are, but understanding how they're talking about those problems. Why does this actually matter to them, so that you can understand what their actual goals are based on those problems or inconveniences. And then when you get them a result, a couple of things happen. Number one, you have a testimonial now for whatever it is that you might teach in whatever mode you want to teach it, whether it's a course or a book or coaching or agency or what have you. You now have a real testimonial. But more than that, internally, it unlocks that imposter syndrome that you have when you first start, which is, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Now you have proven that thought wrong. It's a real story now that you can go back to, and you can utilize that story. You can bring that person on and have them unpack that story as a case study even more, which can then, guess what, more easily sell the next person because it's real now. It's proven, right? So the 1-1-1 strategy works really well for those who are just starting out. But for those of you who maybe are a little bit more established, I like the idea of thinking about it like this. How can you go from the active things you're doing to becoming more passive? Not totally passive, because again, that doesn't exist, but more passive. There might be some elements of the work that you do that do require your work, your touch. Might any of those things be better handed off to somebody else? And I know that's a very tough thing to think about, especially if you start out as a solopreneur and maybe you don't have a big budget for hiring people or getting some help on the outside. But how much is your time worth, right? Imagine what you could do with those extra hours that would then allow you to generate more revenue and open up your mind for the things that you really want to do. And when you're first starting out, yes, you have to wear all the caps, but you got to pass off those caps to somebody else at some point, or else you're either going to plateau in your growth, or you're just going to go crazy, right? You're gonna be burnt out, and we don't want that to happen either. Eventually, especially if you want to scale, you have to hand things off. So making a list, a very honest list with yourself of the things that you do, looking at that list, circling the things that only you can do. Everything else eventually can get handed off. Those things can be prioritized, and just start small. You can do the one thing that just pains you that might be best for you to hand off. For me, it was a lot of the administrative stuff, right? That was like the first thing, the back end stuff, the taxes, the bookkeeping and all that sort of stuff. Then it became handing off my podcast editing. I was a great podcast editor. I actually loved doing that.
Really?
But eventually I got to the point where, am I going to be scrappy entrepreneur forever, or am I going to be CEO of my company? A CEO of a company does not get in the weeds and edit their own podcast. They hand that off to somebody else. Very difficult for me to do because I love to do that work. And I believe nobody could do it as well as me, which was completely wrong. As soon as I found somebody who literally that's what they love and do, that one thing, they were able to do it better and faster. And now I have more time to do the relationship building, or, recording on the microphone with more people versus the editing portion of it. So that's what I would recommend. How are you going to progress from active to more passive? Maybe it's software that you use to make things a little bit easier for you, right? Like if there was potentially a tool that can run ads for you in a moment's notice versus you having to do it yourself, that might be a good thing. Or podcast editing, or whatever it might be. I started to get really, really excited about how much more time I could essentially buy back. There's a great book by a guy named Dan Martell called Buy Back Your Time. That's really what you're doing when you're having a team come in. And then, there's some challenges with that, of course, but, new levels, new devils. But there are solutions to those as well. So anyway, I'll stop talking there, but that's what I'd recommend on sort of both sides. If you're just starting out, or if you've established yourself, how do you get to that next level? And that's by scaling up, by letting go.
So I was just at a conference last week, and I'm sitting at this table, and there's a whole bunch of people at the high level conference, and they're just talking about different things. And one of the questions that is circling around the table is how to get started. Like, you have half the table who are started and successful, and then half the table who are trying to get their foot in the door and figure it out. And for me, every Friday I do this thing called Ask Me Anything. And I have found after a year of doing this, that's always the same thing. And it goes right back to your 111, which I love the way you put that, by the way. I feel like it's potentially a very simple way, and simple gets overlooked. So I wanted to make a point on this, which is a lot of times people think that they can just go into business and they just like they're in business. You're in business to solve somebody's problem. And if it's not a specific enough person, it's not going to be a valuable enough problem to solve. So I think, in fact, I don't even call it a niche, because a lot of times, for example, in my world, people say, oh, I help real estate agents. Well, that's not a niche. That's a category, right? You've got a category of people. And my story is always, when I was a loan originator, I was trying to get real estate agents to send me their business. That's the general protocol, how you get referrals. Nobody would send it to me because I was a 24, 25-year-old kid. And I don't blame them, until one day I'm looking through a magazine and I see this magazine where there's a gal who represents first-time home buyers that are Spanish speakers, and likely the type of homes that they're looking at are government loans. I speak Spanish, so I called this lady up and said, hey, I specialize in government housing. I can speak Spanish. If you have anybody that's having a hard time getting approved for their loans, I'd be happy to help them out. Boom, 5 deals that day. And I never had to market again. In fact, Pat, I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to have a radio show called El Gringo Prestamista. It was Spanish radio, right?
Yeah.
But the riches are in the niches. And again,
absolutely.
That is where you got to start. Okay. So they get their foot in the door. They apply the 111, right? What is expansion? What is growth? What does real business look like when they pass that? Because I feel like that's almost a rite of passage, right? When you figure out the niche approach, that's where things just start to become real. And to your point, by the way, getting a little bit of proof that you can perform a result for somebody, that changes the game. That to me is just the entryway, though, into this game of entrepreneurship. So what comes from there?
For sure. So I like the idea of thinking about what we just talked about as sort of an alpha launch.
Yeah.
Right. It's not even anything. You're sort of organically creating this based on a person's problem, and you don't even know what form it's taking. But again, the benefit to that person is they're getting one-on-one help from you, and you're able to figure things out along the way with just the one person. You're not trying to take care of 10 or 20 people for the first time. But now that you've gotten this person, this result, you've likely learned a little bit about how to go from where they're at in the beginning to where that you eventually want them to go. So let's replicate this. Let's now do a beta launch where you bring 5 or 10 people in, and you bring it in a little bit more formal of a matter, right? Maybe it's a webinar that introduces this concept, and then you say, hey, I'm going to take 5 people in this next round, and it's going to be for this much money. This is maybe the first time you start charging for it, although you could charge on that first person. And now you're going to start to see some income come in from this, which is really nice. And it's still controlled, right? We went from like just a single person as a control to now like a petri dish where there's, a little bit more room, but we got a lot more people in there now, but it's still controlled, right? We're not going wide yet because we can use another round of definition of, well, who is it exactly that we're serving? What is it that we're doing for them? What's the promise of our offer? And through that, that's where you can begin to start thinking about, okay, this information that I went through with this first person, I feel like it would make sense to do this in an online course at some point. So during this beta group, I'm going to approach it as if I'm actually creating videos for an online course and delivering to these 5-10 people as we go along for the next 8 weeks. So it becomes sort of like a cohort-based model, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you can then take it and launch it with even more testimonials as a result of the sort of beta launch. Beta is also cool too. We don't want you to call it a beta because that in the software world that makes sense, but to everybody else it just sounds like the crappy version of something. So it might be a champion launch or a first timer launch or early bird launch or something like that, whatever you want to name it. But this is exciting for people because they're getting access to you. You already have proven yourself, and I've seen so many people do this just even virtually in communities. A friend of mine, Brian Harris, a long time ago was in a Facebook group, and he just started sharing for free in this group publicly how he created sales videos for his clients. And he was just like, hey guys, here's my formula for sales videos. Let me show you. If any of you are interested in like learning more about this, just like reply. That's how he was able to get a group of 10 people that he was able to then build sales videos for right after that, because he had proven himself. He'd actually given away a lot of information for free, so he provided value in this community, and then just had DMs with everybody who was interested. And it was a win for everybody. It was a win for him because he got new clients, but it was a win for these people because they were like, that's what I need. I need that same thing. So going into communities, a great strategy for growing and finding people is become the most helpful person in the community that you're in, right? So this is a strategy that I've been teaching lately, and it's been working really well. So let's say, you are in the knitting space or something. I'm just choosing that randomly. So, you're involved in a knitting community. You're in there and you go, okay, for the next week, every day, I'm going to share a really helpful stitch that I learned that I don't see being taught anywhere else. So I'm just going to film a video about this. It's going to be really quick so everybody can watch it. And then eventually, it doesn't take very long. Other people in the community start to see you as a leader in there, right? It's almost like you become a leader of a micro group inside of a bigger group, right? And what's really cool about that is more times than not, the founder of that group will take notice. Oh, here's this like superstar rock star who's just coming into this group and they're providing so much value. Like, this is amazing. Let me reach out to them. And then you start having a conversation with them. And eventually it gets to a point where you could partner with them, or you can help them, or you can insert yourself in one of their courses, and you start to build a name for yourself. This is what Brian called the sort of teacher's pet strategy, where you become the person that everybody uses as an example now for that creator. So what we're doing here is we're utilizing existing communities, because part of the hard part of starting a business is getting in front of other people. But imagine not just getting in front of other people by joining a community, but having that community founder actually endorse you for the unique things that you're doing in there is really cool. So that would be a strategy that I would say to get a bigger group than one for your next cohort. And then you can kind of choose your own adventure from there. Maybe it's like, okay, you loved working with people one-on-one, or you loved working with a group of people. Let's just cycle through that and create a system out of that so you can rinse and repeat as you go along. Or you find out that you just absolutely hate talking to people in real time, which is totally fine. Cool. Let me deliver this valuable content this way in pre-recorded content and just focus on building relationships up front to bring people into that. So anyway, that's kind of the next step, if you will. But I love that strategy of becoming sort of a micro leader inside of a bigger space, because a lot of opportunities that you can't even dream of will happen when you step up that way.
I think people, by the way, I completely agree with what you're saying. I've done that exact thing many times. And now that I have a bigger community, I see people in my community doing that. And you're right. Anytime we call them Team UpHex, right? Anytime people on Team UpHex are out there helping others, I notice. And when they DM me, whatever, I am like, hey, what can I do for you? And many of them have asked for favors, and I'm happy to oblige because they're bringing such value to our broader community that, listen, it's not just about me. So if you're thinking about this approach just in terms of executing it, don't think that one little helpful post is going to do it for you.
No, you got to show up continuously.
Yeah, you got to show up, and you got to be real, and you got to expect. You have to expect nothing in return. I really think that if you say, I'm going to go into this, you got to, if it's the right community, you got to commit to the community, and you got to be there, even if you make nothing from it. And because I think the alternative is, if you think that after a couple of helpful posts, 3, 4, 5 helpful posts or whatever, and it's not going your way, and then you're like, this didn't work. Like anything else in the business world, you just didn't do it enough, and you didn't have the right intention behind it. So as Pat's saying, go in and become a valuable part of a community. Do it with the intent of, if I get nothing but eyeballs, because people will absolutely see, if I get nothing quickly, that's okay. Right.
Yeah. And there's so many more things other than just like a monetary transaction that are so beneficial. It's a recommendation to another person in the space that you wouldn't have had access to, but now you can and have earned the right to ask for an introduction.
There you go.
It's the idea that, maybe you're creating a product and it's not even for them, but you have made friends in there who would be happy to test it out or read the sales page and offer you feedback. Like those kinds of things are also as valuable, if not sometimes even more valuable, especially in the beginning stages of your business career. But I even in our community, I mean, we actually hired somebody who was a rock star in our community because she was just so amazing. Her name's Heather, and she's now leading a lot of our community cohort model based courses that we have. We call them community powered courses now. So it's an online course, but it's powered by the community behind it, as well as an instructor. And she's an instructor now that we hired literally from the community because we noticed just how awesome she was. And she's, of course, because she's a super fan as well, she's going to over deliver for us. So it's like, again, a win for everybody. But yeah, communities are going to become the thing that are, in my eyes, are going to be even more important for brands to think about. I know a lot of us go, oh, it's hard work. And yeah, of course it's hard work. But think about where we're at now with information just being freely available, and with AI just leveling the playing field for experts out there. We're at a buffet line of information now. Like everybody's overstuffed, actually, right?
Yeah, that's good.
So instead of creating the buffet line and just like literally adding more food to the buffet line to fill everybody more up, why not have the experience where, those sushi restaurants in Japan that you sit down, there's no menu, but the food's going to be great, and you just kind of let the chef do his thing, and he just like gives you that sushi because that he knows you're going to love this. I want that experience for my audience, right? To come in, or better yet, like a private dinner, right? It's like smaller group of people, but they're getting treated well. There's a multi-course meal, and it gives them that experience, right? Because the human element has been lost for a while in a lot of marketing, and it's going to be even more important to have in order to succeed. And that's why I love community, because it's not just you, it's the community and the people in your community talking to each other, right? So how can you create that feel like at a baseball game when your team hits a grand slam to win the game, where people don't even know each other, but they're high-fiving and cheersing together because they're all rooting for the same thing, or they're there for the same reasons. So yeah.
There's a lot of things. And as you're saying that, I'm reminded, and so there's one, you're curating information. So you're right. People don't want to be at the buffet. I'd rather have some chef like serving me up the best things instead of going through and just stuffing my face because I want calories. That information overload is actually the problem today. You know, there's just too much deciphering what's good and what's bad. Or not even bad, but unnecessary, you know, a waste of your time is a big problem. In this year, in March, I think it was, I was at Disneyland. I went to Disneyland like 4 times this year, Pat. Just
nice.
My kids
We're big fans over here too.
Yeah, we love it. So, but I was at Disneyland and I got a message from somebody in my group saying, "Hey, is something wrong with UpHex? It's down right now." I'm like, "No, that's weird. You know, nothing's wrong." Get another message and another message. I'm like, "What is going on?" Well, come to find out that we did have some technical issues and it went down. The entire platform went down. We had thousands of businesses that were unable to launch their ads and do all this, you know, do all the things that our software was supposed to do for them. And when it happened, I didn't know what to do. And so my partners, Bradley and Jacob, I was like, "What's going on? Give me information so I know what's happening." So I just went into our community, our awesome community, which they're incredible. I went in there, I went live and I said, "Hey, this is what's happening. This is the best information I have. I'll keep you posted throughout the day as we fix this." And so I did that. An hour later, Jacob did the same thing. And we just kept people posted. Sometimes there was no update at all. And somebody posted in our group about 6 or 7 hours into this debacle, which it was a 24-hour debacle that just, I felt like I aged a decade.
Yeah.
But not because the people put pressure on me, because this guy said they should teach MBA courses on how to communicate with your customers like you guys are doing. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Amen. People just wanted to know that somebody's working to take care of them in that kind of situation. And
it was crazy.
I think you handled that completely well. Too many companies try to not even want to acknowledge that there's a problem and try to kind of fix it and just go, no, everything's cool. But when you admit your mistakes, that makes you more A, relatable, but B, it shows that you are honest. And I think people want to work with honest, transparent, authentic people or companies today. So really, really great move. And especially if it's like you're at Disneyland and you share a video and it's like, "Hey guys, this is important to me. I'm with my family, but this is important, right? Let me share with you what I know right now." The opposite happened. My wife went to a fan expo in Philly, and there was an actor that she really wanted to meet, Joseph Quinn, who plays Eddie from Stranger Things. Okay. And he was coming in. And the day she arrived, and she got tickets to like see him every single day. The day she arrived, they were like, "Oh, he's stuck in the UK because his passport had expired, so he's trying to get it back. We're not sure if he can come in yet." And she flew in like basically just to see this guy. The next day, no updates. Just one tweet about it. Says, "Oh, we're going to try to get this taken care of by the end of the day." 7 hours later, nothing. She's freaking out. Like some people flew in just on that first day to see him and had to fly back out. They missed him. And thankfully on the last day, Sunday, she was able to meet him because he came in finally last minute. But it was just like not knowing what the heck was happening was eating her alive. And it was eating me alive too, because she doesn't get to go out much. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like the one time she finally gets like a vacation to go and do something for herself that she wants to do, it's like, it's not even working out. Oh my gosh. So anyway, just communication is key, right? Like communication. It's like those words are basically the same.
So we were talking before we jumped on about the importance of the community, and immediately when you're talking about it, I'm like, dude, that's my entire function. We've got 3 partners, and basically my function is to build a relationship with our people, and an actual relationship. I know these people. Like, in fact, I saw somebody at the event. I'm like, "Oh, hey, you do this niche. You're in this." I know them, right? Yeah. But there was in 2020 when I started the community and when I started the YouTube channel, I had a total of 0 people in that community. And before I did that, I told, because it's always like, what activities should we each be doing? And what we look at is, okay, if I did something consistently, but I did it for a year, would it be worth it? So what is going to be the thing that's worth it? Because it's always the long tail events that really matter. And I remember it took me 10 months to get 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel. And then the next 10 months to get 4,000 subscribers. Now, we're not a huge, we don't got Pat Flynn numbers yet. I think you're at almost 500,000 on your smart passive income, right? Close to that?
on the Pat Flynn YouTube channel, it's like approaching 500,000, Pokemon almost 1 million. So, but honestly, like we see and share those numbers, and that's cool. But subscribers are probably the least important thing on YouTube.
Really?
It is, and then they're actually devaluing subscribers. I mean, a person could subscribe and still not see your videos, right? Because of the algorithm. So what's important are the videos that matter getting to the right people. And when you nail the title, thumbnail, and the hook of the video, when it gets in front of the right person, they can become a client down the road, or they binge watch the rest of your videos, even without being a subscriber. The subscriber is sort of just a byproduct. So it is a way to measure, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing, I would say, are 3 things. It's the click-through rate from the front end, so the title and thumbnail. It's the watch time on your videos. So are people sticking around? Because when you get those 2 things right, you're serving YouTube. You're allowing people to stay on YouTube longer. So YouTube goes, oh, this video is like keeping people on here. Let's send it to even more people. And that's how you grow and scale from there. But then the third thing, especially for a business owner, is YouTube working to convert people into my program or into my thing? Yeah. And that can be done through offering giveaways or a PDF file. I know there's a great songwriting channel that I follow that has a PDF download with every episode that they come out with, and it's just genius, and it works really well because it's a unique PDF for the video that you just watch to help you write songs. And like they're almost at 100,000 subscribers now, which is great, and she's a part of our community. So yeah, anyway, I think watch time and click-through rate are going to be it, but yeah, I wouldn't discount how successful your channel is just by looking at the sub numbers. So I think you're doing great things.
So YouTube. So I decided YouTube and Facebook groups. That's where I basically put my 2 my focus on those 2. Is that where you would say, or would you go other directions for community?
I think it is where you want to be. I think YouTube is really important. We teach a YouTube class, and it's been very successful. And I think that YouTube has a unique ability to build relationships with video content, and it has the algorithm. I know TikTok has an amazing algorithm too, but the relationships you can build with your long form content on YouTube are just much, much stronger, in my opinion. So YouTube is great for like a hub for outreach, if you will. But I feel like one other platform on top of that you focus on makes sense. And it could be anything, wherever you have energy to put into. And if you know your people are there, then great. Facebook, awesome. Then let's go deep into that. It might be LinkedIn for some. It might actually be TikTok for some other people. Or it might be something completely different. Instagram is big for a lot of people in different spaces, especially more visually based spaces like photography, makeup, and such. But yeah,
that makes sense. Where it's the community we have on Facebook. As you're saying that, I'm like, a lot of our people are agencies, and they're leading with Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and so they are congregating a lot there. So it's pretty
that makes sense.
Practical to be there. So, well, awesome, man. You're an entrepreneur. You've got money coming in from a lot of different places. What would be a parting piece of advice if you could give one advice to Pat Flynn, 21-year-old Pat Flynn? What would that be today as you embark at 21 years old into your entrepreneurial journey?
I was a very shy kid. I was always in the back of the class, never raised my hand. I just didn't. I had a close group of friends, but really didn't want to talk to anybody else. And I found that that's not conducive to succeeding as an entrepreneur, because the more people you talk to, the more doors open up. And so my recommendation would be put yourself in the same space as other people, other like-minded people, maybe in your niche, maybe not, but people who share the same values and goals as you. When you do that, magic happens. And I would not be where I am today without the relationships that I've built over time at events that I've been to, at conferences, or when we got together for the first time in Puerto Rico. You know, those kinds of moments create new nodes that are intersections of new avenues that can be opened up in your life. And so learning how to start conversations, learning how to talk to people, and learning how to serve others in that kind of fashion is always great. And, you know, although I have been going to less and less events, I still try to make the most of my time at these events to meet as many people as possible, because you never know, the next person you meet, literally the next person you meet, could be the one that changes your life. You don't know. But the truth is, if you don't do that, then you're not opening up those doors for yourself.
That's so true. You are who you hang out with, and the places you hang out with. I mean, it goes both good and bad. Like if you want to see your life go down the toilet, go hang out in the places where, you know, by the way, instinctively that's going to happen. And with the people that are going that direction already anyway.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we hear the tropes, right? Like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with, or your net worth is your network, those kinds of things. So people. That's really what it all comes down to.
Well, Pat, thanks for coming on. I know you're busy. I appreciate you jumping on with me.
Yeah, Sam, thank you.
It's, you know, people coming on and watching this are going to get a ton of value. So thanks, man. Appreciate you. And if people want to go check out your stuff, where would be the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so smartpassiveincome.com for all the business stuff. And if you or a kid is curious about Pokemon, Deep Pocket Monster on YouTube.
I love it, dude. All right. Thanks, Pat. And to the viewers, go check out the Pokemon thing. I'm actually going to go check it out now.